Good afternoon, everyone. This is George from Cal. Say again, welcome to our third Lunch and Learn. And today's session is going to be covering the Acumatica distribution side. And we're actually going to walk you through a couple of different scenarios so you get a feel for an opportunity coming in through CRM. It is an integrated CRM system. So, and then we'll also show you where if you don't need CRM, we can, start out with a quote just in the sales order processing side. And today's presentation is going to be done by both Sean and Stacy, as in the last one, although Sean is probably going to be doing most of the heavy lifting. We talked again, and we're going to, for those that are maybe new on this one, the first Lunch and Learn, we did a more detailed review of all these slides. Again, we're going to go through these even quicker today, and we talk about, that most systems that everybody's using today, are more client-server based and moving into what we call a digital business, where many of the, things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis can be digitized into an application like Acumatica. So when we talk about Acumatica, it is truly a very different product. It was developed, in the 2010, 2011 timeframe, where even many of the cloud solutions that are out there, came in, 1999, 2000 timeframe. So Acumatica, very different platform. Today, so in our second session, we covered financial management. Today, we're going to be focusing on inventory and the modules surrounding inventory, which will include CRM, sales order processing, purchase order management, and inventory control. So this core set of modules that we are going to cover today are part of what would be added to Acumatica if you were to buy what we call the distribution edition. So you'd get all your financial modules, which is general ledger, accounts payable, banking, and accounts receivable. And the distribution edition would include now the four modules that we're talking about. Now CRM, just for, CRM is an additional module. It's not part of the distribution edition. So you need to, kind of factor that in. And CRM is actually broken into two pieces. It, leads, opportunity, and marketing. And then there's a separate CRM module that covers case management. So if you're, managing, help cases, things of that nature, you would buy the addition of the case plugin with CRM. Again, we talked a lot about this. What makes Acumatica different is that middle section, which is the XRP platform. Very, very modern set of code that has built into it all the things that are important for not only a cloud or ERP system, but for a digital ERP system to have, where it's multi-tenanted, it's got localization in it, meaning it can be run in any country. It's got document management built in, workflow and APIs, application programming interface, so that we can actually connect to many other solutions. Customized framework, built-in browser support, and dashboards. So all of that, is what then we build on top of when we look at the upper box there. When we talk about distribution, we have warehouse management. We have the ability to, integrate into, BigCommerce. We also have the ability to do a manufacturing product, which is owned by Acumatica and plugs in, as well as project and field service and route management. So very, very complete end-to-end platform. Again, when we talk about all these modules, every module is connected, including when you get into, some of the, B2B, business to business e-commerce and business to consumer e-commerce. Again, we talked about this, 6,500 customers worldwide as of February, probably closer to 7,000, as we speak. We've talked about, the ability, to, seamlessly integrate into the Microsoft Suite, 365, Power BI, and the Acumatica SaaS instance runs in the Amazon Web Services environment. We talked about cloud to cloud before in more detail, but all of these products that are surrounding the Acumatica cloud can be seamlessly plugged into that Acumatica environment. We talked about security, number of clients being hacked. Baltimore, all their data was being held for ransom. The city of Baltimore. This is happening more and more. And when you're, in the cloud, you're running the latest security technology, and it's not something that you have to worry about. It's something that, Microsoft Azure or Amazon, Web Services have to worry about. So it takes a lot off your mind. I changed the slide around a little bit. Data ownership, you own your data. You can download it right from the cloud in Acumatica to a local laptop. We've talked about that in detail. So unlike other cloud solutions that, you really can't get your data and put it in your hand, with Acumatica you can. We talked a lot about, this being a different type of solution. The technology platform that this is on can seamlessly integrate, to things like, running the application on devices of different sizes. The Amazon, the ability to, talk, into one of your devices that might be in your home. Not that we have a native integration to those type of things, but this product is capable of being able to do that. We talked a little bit about the ability of choice, being able to run, in a SaaS cloud. But we also talked about the fact that you could, run the Acumatica application, in a rack space or, on some other server. You can also purchase the Acumatica solution and run it wherever you want also. So you have really the ability to take it and the same application and run it in really 3 different environments, where most cloud solutions, it's one choice, and that's cloud and cloud only. And again, you don't have access to the, the underlying SQL database, that you would if you run it in subscription or you run it on your own servers. We talked a little bit about the licensing. I'm not going to get into that. I mean, Acumatica prices by a resource level, and based on that resource level being sized to your company, properly, you can put as many users in as that resource level will support. You don't have to pay per user. And as you grow, many times the level you're on can work for you for many, many years. And you're adding users, which some of the other cloud environments might look a little cheaper. Hey, we're on 8 users right now, and that's their price. But then let's say you all of a sudden you need to put 30 users on. Well, that price is going to be way more than Acumatica is going to be, where Acumatica is going to allow you to add those 30 users. And as long as, transaction wise, your resources level is still, being able to process those, without, any delays, you can literally continue to grow, and you're not being penalized and seeing your prices increase every time you add a user. Again, there's the Acumatica University, free training for all your people, same training that we have. And in my mind, some of the best training I've seen, provided by any publisher in the market. We talked a little bit about the Acumatica coming out with 2 releases a year. 2020 R1 came out in March. There'll be a 2020 R2 coming out in October. Lots of features. Just kind of shows you what came out in just the 2020 R1. Lots of, increases across all the modules, all of the different editions, 600 pages of release notes just in this version alone. this product is getting you know, a lot of attention and a lot of new features with every release. A lot of investment being put into the product. We talked a little bit about the fact that, you know, it is a modern product. So when you look at a screen like this, it's built on a platform that responsibly changes its design based on the size, where many of the other products can't do that. And in many cases, you rely on, you know, mobile, you know, frameworks to be able to show, you know, what information is in your core ERP system on that, you know, in that mobile framework, as opposed to the actual application being able to automatically change its design based on the size. And we'll show that, you know, in Sean's quick overview. You know, again, anybody who's on the call, I mean, you know, my contact information is here, but you can obviously contact anybody on the Cal team. But, you know, this would be my direct contact information if you want to take a note of that. All right, Sean, I was going to do a little bit of an overview for those that we have on the session that are new on the user interface. I just want to bring everybody's attention that might be new to this session, and that is that you know, we did a full user interface overview, you know, in our first session. So if you really want to find out about how to move around in Acumatica, a lot of the power in the platform, please, you know, go to the first session, because we spent a lot of time on the user interface. Right now, we're just going to touch on that, you know, in a, you know, shortened version. All right. Thanks everybody for their attention. Sean, it's off to you.
All right, thanks, George. So what we're going to do today is take an opportunity, turn that into a quote, review that quote with our client, and then we're going to move that to the sales order distribution of purchasing it, receiving it, shipping it, and then we're going to take a look at how we can do the same without having the CRM involved. And I think we're going to be able to show you some mobile signatures and maybe add an item from the mobile app. So get started here with a dashboard that we reviewed in the past. What I'm going to do here is kind of take a look at the salesperson dashboard. What's nice about the salesperson dashboard is the At Me functionality for some of this information. For example, my new leads or my opportunities. So we mentioned we're going to take a look at opportunities today, so I'm going to take a look at what Maxwell Baker has available. And you can see here there's a opportunity for a new POS system. And when I open that from the generic inquiry, it's assigned to our contact, Alice Hobbs from the USA Bartending School. Currently, it's in a stage of a prospect. This information is typically entered maybe from a phone call, a web contact us page, or possibly even a lead list that turned over into opportunities. There's also the possibility maybe it came from a referrer. So we're going to kind of talk about some of those ways to track that and help that flow. So for this particular one, I'm going to use some of the 2020 R1 new functionality of opening my opportunity, start working on it. You can see here there's a detail box that pops up asking kind of the reason and the stage. With the 2020 R1 release, Acumatica started introducing the workflow, low-code, no-code functionality into the software, where it becomes very easy for a consultant or a system admin to start modifying workflows, and maybe you want to start asking different questions here or limit things that can be done. So for example here, I have a stage, and since we've worked with this person before, we're going to go right into the development stage. When I hit OK, you can see here it automatically opened it, update the status, but also it changed my buttons up here to what my next action could or should be. So again, with that low code, no code function of that workflow, it brings another level of personalization to the platform for the Acumatica client. The first thing to kind of look at here is the header level of the opportunity. So we use classes. You'll see classes throughout the system. Classes are a way to set defaults to the screens or the screens that we're on, or customers going into a sales order or an opportunity, and have defaults populate. Another way is to manage different types of opportunities. So you can see partner sales, product sales opportunity, or service opportunity. We're just going to talk about a product sale in this particular example. The classes, like all classes throughout the system, are customizable. Stages are customizable and can even be specific to the class that's assigned to it. Another thing that becomes specific to that class is attributes. So I can add a custom field into the attribute area that's only assigned to the class ID, that I can actually select some additional information that maybe is not captured. The estimation date is looking when am I going to be closing that? And we can assign some more logic around that. So for example, on that dashboard, we were looking at opportunities that were coming to an end soon or within a certain amount of days. Up top, I have this marked with a manual amount to kind of show that I could give a value to an opportunity before I really kind of know what the exact item is that the customer has reached out about. So if it came in from a web portal in a POS system, that's kind of our average baseline model. Maybe it's $1,500 with shipping. That's kind of where that amount came from. And that really helps the sales manager kind of see their pipeline for what's open opportunities, what's coming down. Going to the activities tab, very similar to an Outlook or a different or other programs like that actually add tasks, events, emails, or activities. For example here, what I'm going to do is add a phone activity where I'm going to say that I spoke to Alice and that we discussed the current POS options that we have to offer with Alice, and that she requested a quote for one TP6. So I'm just going to save and close that. And you're going to see on here that the activity was added to my activity of the opportunity, but also it's connected to me being Maxwell Baker, the owner. It's going to be related to my business account, and it's going to be related to my contacts. So at different places that I go throughout the system, if you remember the contact screen that we looked at in one of our previous sessions, and I go to activities, you can see now this activity is tagged back to Alice here. The document details tab, I'm going to leave blank currently, and we're going to add those items when we start making a quote. So I'm going to skip over here to the details. If you remember before, we updated the reason code very easily from the new functionality where I didn't have to go into this tab and update it. Also, there's some source information where you can do an external reference or internal marketing campaigns with Acumatica to kind of do some more tracking on them. With the stages, it ties into some forecasting information where you can assign that by the class again, and specifically, I can change that probability based on the class as well. We're going to come back to quotes once we create one here, and the contact information is going to pull from the accounts contact that I have assigned here. If there is a need, I can always override that for this particular one, or I could again click on this pencil icon up here and modify for long-term update. Just going to turn that back off. All right, shipping information. Same thing, it's going to be pulling in from the location with all the defaults. It's going to be allowed to override just like the contact information is. And we're then going to go over to the attributes. Attributes are kind of touched on when we first came in. They can be specific to that class ID and as many as you want. We're actually going to show later where we can actually use an attribute to become a user-defined field on the on the sales order screen and later in the demo. Relations. Relations is something that we talked about as well with maybe a referral. So maybe this particular opportunity came in And we're going to say that this actually came from possibly even our vendor who produces this product. And we can assign it to that contact. Maybe Peter over there is involved in that, just as another tracking capability of that. Another item that you can do is tag a role of maybe a decision maker where they get copied on some information, or excuse me, another employee internally. So maybe someone else part of the sales demo team here would like to see it too. You can actually have them a related identity and bring them over as an employee record to be tagged and copied on those emails. Tax details, once we start adding some products to the quote and the opportunity, they'll start pulling in from the customer defaults. If you're maybe working with a new prospect and I don't have a business account signed up yet, I can actually use the details to assign that at a opportunity specific level, start getting some quoting information in. One thing I probably should have mentioned that I kind of glazed over there is the business account, the location, the contact are not required fields for opportunities. So if it is coming from a web interface, you may not be capturing that information or possibly don't even want that set up in your system. This will allow you to create that opportunity before you move it into the next stage of maybe making a business account prospect. Discount details, orders, and invoices. Discounts, I'm going to show an example of adding in an automatic discount at a line level. So that's going to happen on the quote. And then also the order and invoices is going to be able to show you any orders or invoices that are attached or generated from this quote to give you that 360 view of your situation. So what I'm going to do here is hit this button, create quote. What we're doing now is going to create a sales quote. Acumatica also allows you to do project quotes if you're involved in project accounting. For this example, we're going to stick with a sales quote. We're going to make this quote primary. The reason this is primary by default is it's our first quote. If we have maybe a second or a third quote, we can decide which one's primary. And once we decide the primary quote, if we convert that to a sales order, it will carry the data from that, but also keep your opportunity up to date from that quote. I'm just going to hit create and review. So that's going to take us to that screen. Like many screens in Acumatica, it's going to pull the information over, but also give you a new quote number so you know that the system is going to automatically generate one once you save it. Another nice feature about this is I have not created the document until I hit save, so if I wanted to back out of here, it's gone. There's no actual record created. There's no missing document if I had to delete it. I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to actually unmark manual amount because Alice told us she's looking for a specific POS. So what I'm going to do now is add the inventory item TP6, which I was able to actually search. I just kind of want to show that again. By typing POS, it's searching not only the item inventory ID, it's also searching description where it's pulling the POS terminal as part of the description there to find that code. So by adding that item in, you can see here it's pulling my information of a description, and I'm going to add a quantity of 1. So since I added that in there, you can see here it's actually giving me a discount of 10%. For this particular one here, I'm actually going to take the discount out and maybe not offer that right away. So you can see here, I put that price back. I'm probably going to add that price or discount maybe on a secondary POS system, or maybe if she purchases more than one, we'll give a discount there. Let me click save. All right. Details were all pulled over from my opportunity. Shipping information is the same. Activities are going to be independent, but are going to be related to the opportunity as long as it's marked primary. And all activities from all quotes assigned to this business account or contact will be able to be viewed from their profile screen. Tax details and discount information would pull over if we had that assigned there. Another item that I like to address here is the expiration date. So if you have a date maybe that this quote will expire, you can assign that there, and it'll be seen on your email or your printed document. So the next step here we're just going to kind of pull up here is this action screen. You can see with the automation of the quote and the validations that are in place, send quote, print quote are not highlighted. The reason that is done is the quote needs to be submitted first. So if I submit this quote and it meets any thing, it may pass through. It's totally customizable what your approval process can be. But if I had an approval process in place, it would actually require maybe a manager's approval to offer a discount or even to alter the sales price that's been assigned to that customer, that product. So since this particular quote has passed the validation there, it is now prepared. I'm able to print the quote. So here's my document that's generated from here. I can actually email individually from this printed document where it's going to produce a Acumatica email pulled in with some information here. I have the ability to hand type some information. If I had a signature assigned to my account, would pull that in as well, just like Outlook. And it creates the file. And I'm not going to save that, but the file is then attached to the email if I wanted to send from here. I'm actually not going to send this document and go back to that sales quote and take a look at another action here, which is send quote. If I use this option, it's actually taking an action, and it's going to send the quote through the system automatically by just hitting that button and using the rules that are assigned to that customer or that contact to produce that email and what documents being sent. So maybe I have a specific sales quote document that needs to go to a larger client. I can assign that report to that particular account. Also, I can say at the account level who the information goes to if I was looking at a sales order or an invoice per se, or maybe someone that's always getting copied as well on any document that's signed to that account. I'm just going to hit send quote here. You can see here by that action, it actually updates the status to send. So now I know where that my quote has been submitted. If I go back to my activities, as I mentioned, it's going to add that activity there. I can see that it produced the information based on the quote and who it was going to, Dear Alice, and you can see here my quote number. If I open the document, you'll see all your information that the system's tagging to the email itself, and then the file that's been generated and attached to the email as well can be seen here as well. If I go back to the opportunity that we created this from, one thing is, again, you can see that my quote is also seen at the opportunity level, and I do have a warning now that's giving the user notification that there's a primary quote submitted and possibly in the hands of the client. So it's given that warning, so if you modify it. Once I submit that quote and made it primary, you can see it passed the details back to the opportunity so that it's up to date with the right amount now to show that pipeline to my sales manager. Another example that may happen is that Alice may say that I'm interested in getting the 10% discount. I really need a second unit anyway. Might as well take advantage of that. I can go to my quote screen here where I have the same options. I can print and send quote. I can mark it as primary, and that's going to be useful if I have additional quotes. So for this example here, I'm going to say that we're going to do 2 new POS systems with a 10% discount. It's my description. I'm going to give my quote. I'm kind of assigning that here. I'm going to copy some information, but I'm also going to recalculate prices and discounts in case I actually change them, which on the earlier example we did. So now we have an example, and apparently I didn't do that right. So there we go. We're going to go to 2. Which is getting my TP6 discount 10% off the order. We're then going to, excuse me, do that same process quick, where actually first I'm going to mark it as primary. So now it's going to start overriding my opportunity with some information. I'm going to submit the quote, and then I'm going to send this quote again to Alice. So in my activities, I now have that new activity available for an email. If I wanted to add some more tasks, maybe I wanted to assign some information as a follow-up to myself where I have the task, or even if I have an assistant or a colleague that maybe does that particular job of follow-up on quotes, I can assign a task to them. There's ways to use business events that we can actually create tasks based on the creation of a quote. Maybe 10 days later, have an automatic follow-up task that needs to be completed. Going here, I'm going to go back to that opportunity. And if you look up top here, that amount is now updated. My activity is now only showing my quote that's primary, but I still have visibility to my quote here. 15 and 16, seeing that 16 is my primary quote. So we can update the stages here. Maybe we're kind of in negotiation still a little bit, so I can kind of see that from that either my dashboard or my generic inquiry, kind of keep a track on what's going on. And then maybe Alice reaches out and says, yeah, I want to move forward with that. So what I'm going to do here is use that function up top to close it as a 1. I'm going to say the reason was price, and I'm going to update the stage to 1. So now I have a 1 opportunity. So our next thing is we need to get this order in place, get it purchased, and get it shipped to Alice there. So what I'm going to do here is go to the action. I'm going to create a sales order. So it's asking me if I have different order types, what kind of order type I want, but I'm just going to kind of leave this alone and just hit OK. So here, same thing. I have a new order number. So once I hit save, this is going to be an order that's in my system. I'm not going to change any dates just to prevent any kind of challenges with shipping and trying to ship early or anything like that. So I'm just going to leave it requested on today just so that our dates go through right. You can see here I brought over my goods. I brought over the right pricing, my discount. What the sales order does is actually introduce some new defaults that were pulled from the customer. So for example, I have my financial settings, my terms, who the owner of this document is, but maybe I have a salesperson, so maybe this person here, Steve Church, gets 5% commissions based on this particular sale on the settings of bartender, school, and the item. The payment settings, right now by default, check. We're actually going to show you on our secondary quote in order for this is how to run a credit card with the authorized.net integrated right in the system. Shipping settings, again, pulled by default from the account, can be modified on the order with giving the user the common settings that people are looking to have here. And then shipments and payments, we're going to touch on once we get to some of that information in the system, and then the totals. So kind of an overview of the calculated quantity of what's shipped, payment totals, pre-authorized amounts, things like that. One thing that I wanted to do before we get too far into the sales order, I just kind of want to go back to that opportunity real quick and show the orders, or now that system, or the order screen is now showing that connected sales order that's in an open status. I'm going to open that from that screen to go back to where we were. And for the inventory item itself, one thing that I wanted to show, and I kind of moved past without, is taking a look kind of at the stock item screen, and some of the defaults are on that item as well. So you can see on the screen, again, we have the class. The class is going to control a lot of settings. You can control unit of measures, different country of origin. The tax, posting, and lock classes can be automatically filled in. Again, all this stuff is stored here, but editable on a singular level. The posting class is going to bring down all my GL accounts. This particular example is showing a sales sub account. So you can see some of the information is going to be tagging electronics because it is a computer system. Looking at pricing, saying a last cost of $1,000. I have an MSRP price, and then I have a default price, depending on what you want to show. I can also do sales prices that are related to a pricing group. So maybe a customer is assigned to a price group 1 or level 1 or wholesale or retail price class. I can do customer specific pricing. And then also I can do a promotional at all the levels that I'm able to have as well. The warehouse default details right now, we're just going to pull it into our retail warehouse, which is the default to this item. You can see there's a default receipt to and issue from to help the user with some data entry. I have a preferred vendor. You can also see in this warehouse I have 0 quantity on hand. And then some of the seasonality and replenishment details that are specific to this warehouse so that I can actually assign different information throughout my warehouse availabilities of the product. The vendor details is kind of what we showed before. You saw that there was a default vendor assigned to the product. We can have this product bought or purchased from multiple vendors. This particular one has one vendor. It also showing a vendor inventory ID so that if we wanted to modify the report that goes to the vendor when I place this order, or the email notification or EDI, whatever information or whatever way you're getting your information to your vendors, we can actually show an item number that's relevant to them. When that's added, this cross-reference is actually created where we can actually do a global cross-reference, a barcode information, or even a customer part number, so that if I wanted my inventory ID to show as a different number to specific clients, I can actually store that here with different unit of measure when used, and also the description if using that as well for that customer or that vendor. Just hopping back to that vendor details, you can see where I can do some purchasing information to kind of help that team look at lead times, additional lead times, min orders or max orders. And again, you can see if there's different pricing from different vendors, you can see the last vendor price that was issued to this particular product. Attributes, very similar to all of our other screens. The one nice thing with the stock items you can see here is I'm actually storing some of the images of the product. Sales category, so if you get into like an e-commerce situation with maybe a big commerce integration, you can actually store the categories to help produce that. There's another area for attributes where you can store some additional information, maybe that's not out of the box with Acumatica that you want to kind of capture or see what's happening. Possibly maybe on this particular one, I want to know that what is my memory attribute, and I can actually say that this is 4 gigs, so if I want to look at that data a different way from some generic inquiries or maybe even an operating system, Windows 10. Packaging, this particular item I have that it weighs 25 pounds and it's packed by quantity. You can see that's packing it separately so that every time I sell one of these and ship it, it's going to be one large box, and that if I have 2 of them, it's going to break that apart for my shipper. I already talked about the cross-reference. Some of the settings that are done replenishment. So the Acumatica allows you to do different classes. You may have a purchasing class or maybe a transfer class. If I have a warehouse where I have some storage in and I want to transfer that, it'll help you produce some information, visibility once you start building some data into Acumatica. The last thing I wanted to touch here is description. Gives you a little bit of a view of the item itself, maybe again on a web e-commerce information you might have stored here, or some sales tools that if someone needs maybe a link, or I can even go in here and start playing a YouTube video on that product. And that's going to be it on an item itself. If I'm in an item, you can see there are some reporting from inquiries. We can go in and see sales pricings or some allocation details. I also have some actions where I can update a standard cost if I had one assigned to it, or even change the ID. I like to bring that one up because very useful. If your ID has changed, Acumatica can actually allow you to change that ID so that you can You don't have to delete that item or inactivate that. And if you want to keep the same item, just a little tweak that maybe you wanted to change something to look at reporting, you can change that there. And Acumatica is able to see that because it's using what they call an inventory CD, and the ID is behind the scenes, so that's not affected by the user's experience. So going back to my sales order, we're just going to kind of quickly look at the scenario of I'm going to mark this particular item since I have no availability of the item on hand. I'm going to mark it for a PO. By default, it's saying that I want to purchase it to order, so it's going to link that purchase order back to this document so that it allocates the goods automatically. So you can see here when our next example we're going to come back to is actually doing a drop ship. So for this example, again, we're going to go up to actions. This action can actually be done by a processing screen. So depending on your business flow, you may be placing a bunch of orders at once, or you can do it at a single level. So what we're doing here is going to hit create purchase order, and it's bringing me to my create purchase order screen. And it's going to pass my attributes just so I'm finding exactly what I need from this particular order. I also have it that it's being this vendor is defaulted. And I'm bringing it into the warehouse that I want the demand to come out of. So I'm just going to process this screen. Since I only have one purchase order being made, it's going to open that up for me so I can see it. We're looking here at the purchase order. Again, all populated from system setup and configuration. With this particular one, when I take that off hold, I have a pending approval. So there's an approval process in the purchasing side that says that this purchase order needs to be validated by maybe a purchase manager. And once I save this, you can see there's some approval details that it went out to this user of this work group that they have to actually go in and approve it. I do have access to approve it, so I'm just going to do that right on this screen. But there could have been a notification that went out to a mobile app that allowed that person to approve from there, or even going to a approval processing screen that they can process multiple approvals in bulk. So once I have that approved, it goes to the status open. So now another nice feature that I like to mention that's not turned on here is actually the print and email. So if this was checked, I'm sorry, not select to don't email, there would have to be a email of the document to go into that next stage. So it actually helps the user remember that this document has to go to that vendor, and it has to be done in that way to go to an open state to allow the receiver to actually be able to process that. Once I actually take it off hold, approved, and email and everything, you can see here everything is locked down. If I wanted to modify this purchase at all, it would have to be put on hold, and my approval details would be removed. It's no longer approved based on the change of the order. Another feature here, as you can see, here's my sales order that it's going to allocate to when I bring these goods in. What I'm going to do next is enter the PO receipt from the action. Again, because the action is going to bring some of the information over for me. One of the features that can be turned on or off is actually create a bill. For this example, I'm going to create the bill with the release of this particular purchase receipt. So what's happening here is my receiver has the goods. They're saying they received 2 pieces. And because my business flow says to create the bill, I'm giving it a vendor reference, maybe that invoice number you already have, or maybe your vendor has a packing slip number that they reference on their bills. You can add that there. Once I save this document, you notice it's in a balance state. So this balance state means that it's sitting here as a document, but the inventory or the value of that inventory has not been added to my system. Once I click release, the system is going to go in the background and make those GL transactions. It's going to make your inventory transactions. It's also because I clicked that button, it actually made my bill for my AP team. So if I click on this, it's going to show me that I actually have an open bill on hold. Oh, not on hold, open bill for my AP team to actually process that. Again, that is something that can be turned on or off by configuration. Some other features of the purchasing receipts document is I can process a return by selecting the items and clicking return, and I go through that process of returning items to the vendor. I can also add landed costs directly from here, so that if I'm actually tracking the cost that was in addition to this particular product being brought in, I can enter the landed cost document here. Because I'm going again from the action of the document, it's going to bring over the information from there to help me set up the information on the document to hit the right receipt, the right product transactions. I'm going to say this particular one is just a it's transit transport. By default, it's going to give me my location. Again, just like the customer side, you can do vendor locations. I can also create a bill if I know that's another bill that's going to happen here, and that's my process, or I can leave it open that my AP team can pull the data in into the AP bill itself. Also, one thing to mention is all the vendors have a little checkbox. I think Stacy mentioned in our last session that you can actually mark as a landed cost vendor, which actually allows the vendor to be seen here. So maybe some vendors do both. They may give you the goods but charge you freight. You can add them in here as well. The way the system works is different landed cost codes. So for this particular one, I'm just going to say transport. I'm going to say this costs us $25. Take it off hold. Again, balance, nothing's happened. Once I release, the system's going to go ahead and take care of all the transactions in the background for me. All right, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to kind of go get a new browser here that I've actually processed those goods and brought them into place. So this is the sales order that we've been talking about here. I'm going to go over my allocation. I can see now that these goods are allocated with that purchase receipt. So I have visibility of how they allocated to here. I'm going to say now that this is ready for shipment. For this example today, we're not going to show quick process, but Acumatica does have a quick process feature where you can actually do your shipment, print your documents, create your invoice, and release your invoice, and email your invoice right by hitting one button. And another feature called Device Hub that actually can have your labels or your documents print right to a defaulted printer by clicking that button as well. But for this example, I'm just going to actually create the shipment. And I'm going to use today's date in the warehouse that it's defaulted to the system. So because I did it from there, brought again all that information right into the shipment, it brought over all the goods that could be shipped and saying that I am going to ship them. See, it's connected to the order, pulling over my shipping settings, saying it's going to go UPS ground, that my freight price is going to be generated from the freight price of this particular shipment, and then also based on my settings of the item itself, I have my two boxes, one of each. If I go to actions here, I'm going to confirm the shipment. We have this particular demo environment set up to call UPS and actually create tracking numbers. So actually on this one here, you can see here, assign tracking numbers, so it'll help you with some of your notifications to the user and trackability to your client. It actually attached the label to each line. So there's my actual UPS label. But if I wanted to go to maybe an actions and print labels, I may want to maybe another label with some more information that could be customized and personalized for your environment. And there's some labels that can be set to print on different, maybe a printer or a Zebra shipping label printer. And then, again, this can be either done from this screen or a process screen by your AR team. It's going to process this invoice and go ahead and release it. So now I do have documents through the whole cycle that I have the shipment turning into an invoice, and when I did that, it actually updated my inventory, so that I reduced the inventory, but also made all of my GL transactions in the background as well that I have an open AP bill. I'm going to try to move a little quicker. I know we're running out of time here. I'm going to go to this quote real quick because we mentioned there's different ways you can do a quote. Also want to show a couple other features that we didn't talk about so that if I was actually coming in from this particular screen and I'm going to do an order type of a quote, it's going to give me some, again, logic where there's settings that I can't alter because it's really not a sales order, it's more of a quote. But also it's going to allow me to copy this into a sales order and give visibility back to where this quote came from. So for this example, this is saying that you didn't want the CRM package or have that needed. You really just need to issue some quotes. So another way besides searching an item or hitting plus here and typing some information is hitting add stock item. Another new feature in 2020 R1 of Acumatica is actually matrix item. So if someone had a reason to do different variances or attributes of a product, Acumatica is now introducing that into their system as another module that's available. For this particular inventory lookup, I want to kind of take a look at sold cents feature. So you can see here's all my sold cents, and I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm actually going to say show all items, even if there is no availability. So here is that TP6 product that we sold. I'm actually going to click this button and say add and close, and then that product's going to be added onto the system. I'm just going to save that. So another example where we kind of mentioned we're going to use the mobile app here. It's going to bring this screen over. I'll log into my mobile app. I'm going to go to my sales order browser. And there's different filters we can do here, but I'm going to go to my quote. You can see I have my details. And the reason I want to show this is maybe your salesperson's on the road and they have their quote already going, and then maybe they're at the place of business that's going to be ordering it at USA Bartending and the location they're going to maybe deliver it at. And they're taking a look at it, so they may want to add maybe a non-stock item of training. And just maybe 1 hour of it, and go back there. So now my order is updated by $50. Talk about training. I'm going to save that, and maybe since I'm there, I'm going to ask Alice to sign this document saying that she approves it. You can see here I can sign that, save it. It's now a file that's attached. You can see that it's there. You can also take photos. Which is now saved to that as well. Hit done. I'm just going to save one last time to be safe. And then move this out of the way. So if I refresh my screen here, taking a look, you can see here's my training that I was at it. I have my file. I don't think it's saved. It did save my uploaded picture, just in refresh screen there. There's that signature that we added, and then also the photo that I took from my phone. You could go ahead and add different photos that maybe you already taken from there. And again, the nice new feature about this version is the upload using your mobile app. So if you're using your computer, you can use your phone as a camera as well, and it's going to bring that right back on. I believe we showed that in a different version or one of our other topics here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to actions, and I'm going to copy that order. So for this here, I'm actually going to uncheck these boxes, and I'm going to say make a sales order. We can change those defaults. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and save that. Because we made that quote from the actual module order type QT, if I go over to my financial details here, you can see here where it originated from is that layer of connection here that I can fill back into that as needed. One of the other cool features we want to show you here is if you have the ability to have the customize role you can actually manage your attributes here and add user-defined fields right to the screen. So it's as simple as adding a new attribute. We're going to say maybe preferred training date. And I have different options here. I'm just for this one, I'm going to use a date and a time. I'm going to save and close it. Go back to here, and I'm going to add the user-defined field. So now I have a user-defined field that's going to be easily added to my orders so that it's giving me more. Oops, it brought me to the quote. I hit back there. Maybe like if I want a training date, they want to make that happen on Friday, and it's just kind of giving an additional field that I didn't have any place to put that into my system right currently. All right, so what we said here is for the item itself of the POS system, I'm going to mark that for a PO, but on this particular one, I'm going to drop ship it. Save that. I'm going to go to the same process I did earlier, create a purchase order. I'm going to process that. You can see it's a different line type here. Goods for dropship. I have that shipping to the customer now instead of my location with that information so that my vendor can see it. I'm going to go through my scenarios here. Save. I'm going to enter the PO receipt. This PO receipt is going to act as my shipment to the vendor itself. I'm sorry, to the client itself. I'm just going to unmark create bill for this particular one. And then I'm going to release this document. If I go back on my screen to that sales order, you can see now that's a completed sales order with a shipment. Oop, I went back to that sales order. That's linking the drop shipment as the document in reference of how that got to the customer there. But it looks like I'm going to hand that back over to George to finish up our call for today.
Well, thank you, Sean. Just wanted to thank everybody who attended. We can open up for questions if people would like to, ask any questions at this point. Any thoughts? Any comments about seeing the sales order processing flow that we presented today? Okay,
we do
Jesse.
have one question here in the Q&A box. We have someone asking, can you add manual notes to a quote, or is the entire thing auto-populated? So Sean, I don't know if you want to share your screen again and we can show them the options that they have for adding a note, whether it be at the line level, whether it be modifying the default description that's coming in from the item, or a header level note. We have our sales order document up here. And the first thing I want to show you is that there are header level notes. So up here, this note basically would apply to the entire document as a whole, not specific to a particular line. So that's one area where you can add some manual notes. The other area where you can add notes is at the line level. So this note is specific to the line that you have selected. And here you can record some additional notes on that line. It's very common for our clients to add line notes and have us incorporate that note to actually print on that customer-facing document. And then the other area that you can modify is the actual line description that's coming from the item setup. So what you're seeing defaulting in is the default description from the item. You have the ability to override that here for this one line on this record.
Stacy, I'd like to add another interesting part about Acumatica is on the customer. If we were to go to the customer record, and you notice Sean just hit the little pencil, there is the ability to do notes at a customer, but there's also the ability to add pop-up notes so that when you're entering an order or a case, you have the ability to add pop-up notes there. Okay, if there's no more questions, just want to thank everybody for joining our Lunch and Learn series. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions about Acumatica that we might not have covered in these. We will be adding some other Lunch and Learns, but for now, this is the final one in this particular series. I hope everybody is healthy and safe, and please reach out to us with we can provide information. There's actually some special pricing during this COVID period that if someone is looking to be able to move forward, there are some additional discounts for doing so during this period. Thanks again, and appreciate everybody's attention and taking time out of their day to join our session.